Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mr. Happy, aka Mr. Happy Mondays, the weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. So I took kind of a chill week this week. I think when I got my booster, I already had not been sleeping super great for the past several months. In fact, the best sleeps I got were the days before Endwalker and the days before normal and the days before Savage, because I put in a ton of extra effort to sleep super well for those days. But other than that, my sleep schedule has not been great for the past like 2 or 3 months. So I think that on top of a little bit of being like lethargic from the booster made this last week just full on sleepy boy for me. I just wanted to nap. I wanted to chill. So I didn't work on very much in the way of videos because I was feeling out of my funk. However, now as the week progressed, I'm back onto my regular schedule. I'm even taking steps to fix my sleep schedule a little bit by making sure that I do 30 minutes on my Peloton before I head to bed, a little bit of some sort of weightlifting, whether it be chest, shoulders, doesn't matter, legs even after doing the Peloton, doesn't matter, and then shower in bed, because that routine gets me right into bed whenever I want to get to sleep. So I've already getting to sleep like an hour to an hour and a half earlier, which is going to do me a lot of good. So fingers crossed I can keep that schedule up, because I'm already feeling better after the past few days of getting out of that funk. And as such, this week, we've got a few pretty easy videos to work on. One, we will have the job changes, so of course I'm going to do a summary. That doesn't require much. State of the Realm, we will have one again this week. I've actually got like 4 or 5 of them planned out, guaranteed. Plus, there's a couple of other things that I want to do. So I've probably got about at least 6 or 7 of them planned out for sure. And then there's a couple of others that we'll see after I get through those, if I can filter in before we get to the next major content patch. And then versus. So 6.08 is on Tuesday. So ranged physical versus, I'm pretty confident I can do that before 0.1. And we'll see what the other changes end up looking like, because it might be worth delaying versus or doing a versus light, where we talk about how the jobs are kind of in an unstable state. And so doing a full-on versus, it may be too early for some, but that's another thing that's on the plate. Materia melding guide, that's a big one that people have been asking for a while. Updated PF guide, actually almost finished that, but decided to rewrite it and change a few things, so I haven't gotten back to recording that one. So those are some of the things that are in the works, that were in the works even when I was a little bit tired. And then there's a couple of other things as well. I know Legends Arceus comes out this week, so maybe a little bit of a shiny Pokemon deal on the YouTube channel. What else? Yeah, well, actually, the rest of the things are for February. I still want to release that Mario Party highlight, and I still really need to do my MSQ highlights. But either way, it's a lot on my plate. I'm trying to make sure that I have it. Oh, almost forgot to mention a big thing. So my stream last week, I had a stream that was sponsored by HelloFresh. I've actually been using HelloFresh for like the better part of a year. They're not sponsoring anything on my YouTube channel or anything, but you've probably heard me talk about it in a few, especially weekly Q&As or even in State of the Realm. But hey, they gave me a link. They gave me a discount. And while it's a sponsored thing on Twitch, I figured I'd extend it to anyone here who wants it. 16 free meals plus 3 free gifts for throughout the first 6 weeks, free shipping as well. So if you want to try it out and you're a US resident, you can use that. Your boy does get a kickback if you use it, but don't worry about that. If you don't want to try it, you don't want to use it, don't. I'm just extending it to you here because it's a pretty damn good deal. Anyway, with that, let's get on to the Q&A. Thank you to our sponsors over on Patreon. They don't need to support the channel through Patreon. They choose to. All my content is free and available here. It has stayed that way. It will stay that way. So thank you to them, because they're extra special, because they're not doing it for any real gain for themselves. And of course, our patrons of darkness, Khuja, Jenova, and Kurenai Oni. Thank you to all of you, and thank you to those of you who are tuning in. Let's see what questions are in the comment section of this video. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello, hello. Hope you're doing well. Same to you. For the past few Savage tiers, my group has been doing blind clears of each encounter and are currently finishing up P3. As a result, we tend to avoid any content that might contain spoilers about fight mechanics such as streams or YouTube videos. Never watched week 1 clears, so I was curious if those more hardcore groups tend to stay fully blind or if they share information or strats with other groups as they progress. For example, did your group keep up with the other week 1 streams discussions to get information on mechanics, or could clear faster? Or did you avoid it so you could stay blind? I wanted to stay blind. My team did not. My team, there was one person in particular who was scouting ahead and then bringing us at least a clip of what they were doing. One thing that doesn't happen much is actual discussion about the individual mechanics. I'd say that happens on the weekend after the first tier has come out, because by then a bunch of groups have cleared. There's more open discussion, there's written guides, there's all sorts of things like that. I worked hard to get my video guides out at fucking Mach speed this time. So, that's what usually drives the discussion. But people scouting out clips is not uncommon. And that was largely what someone in my stream was, the team I was in was doing. I'm not a huge fan. I'd rather do it blind. Xeno, for example, did the tier all blind. I would so much rather do that. But I enjoy raiding with my team. I'm not going to tell them how to play. And if it's a group consensus thing, then I just bite my lip, move on, and that's how it's done. But it is a mix of things. And I think that groups need to be mostly on the same page with those, because if not, then it kind of leads to maybe not the best of scenarios of group dynamics, in my opinion. But yeah, so that's about it. We mostly kept up. I remember a couple of things that were scouted around by one of my teammates, but we still generally had to teach and learn even through the clips. Not everybody can watch a clip and immediately know what to do. So it ended up still being a bit of discussion, a bit of explanation, and I just wish it would have been fully blind instead. I think that's just so much better of an experience. All right, next one. Hashtag Mrhappy Mondays. Hey, what's up? Hello. Look at all these extra hellos already. First time asking, love your content. Thank you. My question is, how accurate are FF logs? How much influence do they actually have over party composition? I hope I did this right. You did this right. Don't worry. I'll say a couple things. One, mostly some of it is simulated. Stuff like dots is generally simulated, but the simulation of the damage has gotten really, really good. So it's generally accepted to be an under 1% variance rate. So like maybe it's a few numbers off, but nothing too major. That being said, in terms of your second question, how much influence do they have? More than they should. Most people do not understand how to actually use FF logs as an effective tool. You know what people do? They click on statistics, they look down the list of who's doing the most DPS to who's doing the least, and that dictates their brain and how their brain cells decide what jobs they want to play with. And they don't think of the individual factors that get certain jobs to certain aspects on that list, or even how they place on that list. For example, you could have a bard that does not have good RDPS percentile placements, but if you then search by their ADPS or their NDPS, and you find they have better percentiles, that tells you that one of two things is happening. Either they're playing with people who aren't making good use of buff windows, or they themselves have an issue with buff window timing, meaning they're using it late, they're using it selfishly, and they're not lining it up properly with other people's 2 minutes, which would then be reflected in the other people's parses as well. So there's a lot of ways to read the individual information that is lost. So I generally discourage using it too much to care about the balance. Yes, you can get a general idea when you see Dancer is like 400 or 500 points behind another player at a certain percentile as its median, very particular, then yeah, you can clearly tell that this job probably needs some buffs. But what you can also tell is that those Dancer logs are clears. Probably the most important thing about those Dancer logs is they're clears, which is kind of the whole point of doing content, is to clear it. So that means you can bring it. As long as the player is decent at it, you'll be fine. And that is the most important thing. All the jobs can clear the content. So if you have an issue with a job, I'm a little concerned if you will exclude the job from your party finder, because as long as the player is good, that's all that matters. And unfortunately, you can't by default weed out players just based on what job they're playing. You really have to actually get in there and play with all the different people. All right, next one. Hashtag Mrhappy Mondays. Hey, Mrhappy. Hope you're doing well. Same to you. Currently leveling all my jobs from 80 to 90, and I couldn't help but notice White Mage's issue compared to the other healers. Lack of OGCD heals makes the job feel slow and clunky. What do you think they could do to fix this issue, improve the job overall? Fortunately, we just had a healer State of the Realm, so there are a couple of things immediately on the tip of my tongue. For one, making it so that lilies are damage neutral, or even a damage gain. By making lilies damage neutral, it means committing a GCD to them becomes worth it, which means you don't feel bad about not having OGCDs as much because you have a GCD that's 100% worth committing to saving a life. This would mean they'd have to make misery equal to, 1240 potency, I believe, which would also feel great for a white mage, would improve their AoE in dungeons, would improve their boss damage overall, because again, now their lilies are going to be a net gain. They're not losing glares and losing potency to keep the team alive. And I think it's just a direction they've already moved with other healers anyway. On top of that, their mana could use some help, whether it be getting mana back on using lilies or... Well, here's the thing. If they make lilies damage neutral, as Momo very accurately described, they inherently help the MP issue because then you're making lilies more worth using, encourages healers to use lilies more frequently, doesn't cost MP, helps their MP pool. That being said, he also said that a size, raising it to 10% of your MP back would probably go a long way. So fortunately, I could just kind of regurgitate Momo's discussion from the recent State of the Realm to you, and that would help a lot. It also gives them an identity of not really being an OG CD healer as much, and their OG CD heals aren't bad. I mean, they have Benny, the best one, of course, which you should be using very liberally in dungeons, especially. You have Tetra, you have Divine Veil, you have Aqua Veil, you have tools that do indeed help the tank stay alive, especially in dungeons, but it's a matter of how they feel versus how like a Sage feels with, you know, giving Keracole to everybody, you know, a Physis Keracole and then DPSing to heal them while then occasionally throwing out like an OG CD with their Adder's Gall and then giving them a Haima for a shield. It's, yeah, I get what you mean. And maybe they'll move more in that direction at some point. Obviously, some people have suggested lilies should be OG CD. Not a change I think they'll make, but all the same, we'll see. I think that fixing Lily should be priority number one, and that would fix a lot of issues with the job. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello, Mr. Happy Mondays. That confused me. My name doesn't have a Monday in it. Longtime viewer, third time asker. I guess. Welcome. Hope you had a chill weekend. Yeah, I'd say a pretty chill week overall. I don't know if this has been asked or discussed, but my question is about leveling roulette. I just finished Copper Bell with a party in which the lowest member was around level 70, judging by gear. I queued alone, and I guess all of them did as well. Couldn't there be something to prevent this from happening? They implement the limited leveling roulette filter, but it only works on premates. I don't mind getting a low-level dungeon as long as I'm helping someone. Yeah, the main thing that it does is it literally just tries to keep that same filter, that default leveling roulette filter on for everybody. Because A, it's much lower stress on the actual duty finder itself if it's not deliberately trying to check every individual person that enters it. Trying to take all that data and calculate that, put stress on it, slows it down. And that's just what they don't want. And that is the main reason. They have actually discussed why this is a thing. And it's why they added limited leveling roulette so people who could group up together could at least avoid that. Because then it's really easy to track the information. It's just tracking that party as an isolated unit as opposed to tracking every individual person who enters the roulette. So that's why it's a lot to ask the roulette to do, to check for every single individual person who enters it for every single type of thing that it's doing, against every possible instance that everyone can do. It does that to a small degree, but just it has to get finer details, and they don't want to put any additional stress on that. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello, Haps. Hope you're doing well. Same to you. Hello. Had a quick question on materia melding while leveling, specifically regarding tanks and healers. I'm going to tell you most people don't do it. Before I even read, I'll tell you, nobody does it. Like, you can. There's a lot of... If you have a lot of leftover materia, throwing, like, random grade 8s or grade 6s or even early grade 4s or 5s into things, it's great, but it's so unnecessary. Endgame, it's all very different. What are your thoughts on melding tenacity for tank and determination for healer if I'm leveling primarily in dungeons? If you have the spare, go right ahead. You can do no wrong while doing materia melding while leveling up, because almost nobody does it. So you're just better than them by default. You could all be skill speed for all I care, or all spell speed for all I care. You're doing better than them by virtue of doing it at all. So go nuts. If you really want to, go nuts. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Didn't even say hello. And I know who this is too. And they still didn't say hello. What, do you think you don't owe me a hello because I know who this is? Fine. This is a frivolous one that's been answered, so feel free to do whatever. Why don't you like red? I feel like I answered this like a week or two ago. I just find it boring. Does anyone else, does everyone watching, feel free to comment this. Do you not have a job that you don't think is inherently poorly designed? You don't think it needs to be changed? You don't think there's anything wrong with it, but you just don't like playing it? Red Mage and Dragoon are that for me. I have no inherent issues with their design. I don't think they should change anything. I don't think they should cater to me at all to try and make me like it. But I don't like them. They're boring. They just are to me. I don't get any satisfaction out of doing something well on those jobs. I just feel like I'm along for the ride. And fine, I won't play them then. I'll level them, move on, won't play them. I have no issue with that. I want people who enjoy them to enjoy them. But I won't. So that's it. All right, so I've already read this one ahead, and it's a Shadowbringers spoiler question. I'm going to allow it without putting it in the spoiler section because I can't keep... Like, Endwalker spoilers I get. There's a reason why we were keeping away from those for the most part. But I can't stop, like, a Shadowbringer spoiler question at this point. So, just warning you now. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Mr. Happy. Hope you're having a great insert weekday here. It's Sunday for me, but it'll be Monday when I receive this, so that works fine for me. My question revolves around the final set of role quests from Shadowbringers. It ended with you having formed a new group on the first, kind of similar to the Scions, and a confirmation they can go to the 13th and likely save it. This feels like such a natural direction to go in another expansion, but I see almost no one talking about it ever, almost as if it was forgotten. What are your thoughts around saving the 13th? So this is talked about a lot. I don't know why you think it isn't, but there's one crucial flaw. You will never need to do that set of quests, the role quests, the void quests as they're called. You'll never need to do it to unlock the expansion. So the expansion to save the 13th is one that effectively needs to pretend you never did that quest in the first place. They will never make it mandatory. And I know some people are like, oh, they made Crystal Tower mandatory. That's a lot different than asking someone to level 4 different jobs to level 80, do 4 separate set of quests that then converge into quests that then unlocks another quest afterwards. Which then also inherently, by the way, requires you to do some really old quests from Heavensward that are also not that out of the realm of doing, but still. They can never make an expansion. This would have to be a cameo. Like this event having happened, it either would have to assume it's happened already, or it would have to lead to a side quest of how they were impacting the changes that were made. But it can never be the core element of the expansion. So that is the crucial flaw in the way they decided to do that. All right, so this is another one that's Shadowbringers really. Honestly, it's not even Shadowbringers spoilers. This goes even further back because these are things that we've known for a long time. Hashtag Mr. Happy Monday. Sup, Haps. You doing all right? I'm doing all right. Love Endwalker. Think it wrapped up nicely. However, spoilers. And again, I'm saying even though they're talking about Endwalker, I promise you these are not Endwalker spoilers. These are much older spoilers. The question that I saw here was very simple. How did Emmett Selk, Laha Bray, and Elidibus escape the Sundering? Did I miss something? Also, lore podcast fun. We did do one lore podcast. We might do another one. That's never explained. They are the sole 3 people who did not get sundered, and that's it. There is no explanation for it. Well, Elidibus makes sense, because Elidibus is the heart of Zodiark. Again, not Endwalker details. These are old details. Laha Bray and Emmett Selk, on the other hand, we only have to assume they just were too good. It's never directly answered. They are just the lucky ones, or the unlucky ones, depending on how you think of it. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Haps, hope things are well today. They are. Thank you. Do you think Square Enix would do anything to make the Bosha raids more rewarding than skirmishes? Yeah, I think they need to heavily buff CLL and Dalriada's EXP. They need to be a full level. Like, I'm not even fucking kidding you. They should be like a whole level for doing them at this point. That will 100% get people doing them. Again, even after level 80, because Bozja is already as good as it is after level 80. If you made them worth a whole level, yeah, I mean, yeah, there's the chance that you get a really shitty party and you don't get any EXP, I guess, but it would help to some capacity. As for Delubrum's a little tougher, because Delubrum you need to be 80 to queue into, and it is no design that allows for like gaining experience or leveling or anything. So Delubrum Normal is a tougher one, but I think they mostly need to rework how you queue into it. Right now, it automatically goes every like 10 to 15 minutes, I think it is, and just takes whoever's in the queue. And you can beat it like that, but they probably need to rethink it from the ground up, and I have a feeling they will. So, yeah, that's that. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Happy, just one quick question. In a recent video, you went over an interview where they mentioned trying to reward busy jobs. Do you think that would include Gunbreaker? I Paladin Warrior Gunbreaker 90, and I feel Gunbreaker is by far the busiest and hardest to play and has the least sustain, but it's deep. Well, of those 3, it does. But it's actually the Heart of Corundum is so good. It isn't that much higher than the others. I don't know. Maybe it's all just me. So funny thing, this is the opposite of what Gunbreakers want. Gunbreakers want to be able to press a button that isn't their burst during their burst. Actually doing anything that, like popping a cooldown or moving a boss on Gunbreaker, sucks. It just does. If you have to do it during a burst window, then you just hate your life. So rewarding busy jobs is not the problem people want them to tackle on Gunbreaker. It's degree of busyness for a job that has other things to be responsible for that people want tackled. So the answer is a potential yes, but it's not the core issue that needs to be addressed on Gunbreaker, according to Gunbreaker mains. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hiya, Haps. Hello. Hope you're doing well. Same. Well, I hope you're doing well. I mean, I also hope I'm doing well, but you know. As a first-time asker and relatively new 14 player, started around September, October, nice. Wanted to ask something pretty simple. What's your favorite mount and why? So my favorite mount is actually my Proto-Ozma mount. That's from completing the Baldesion Arsenal 48, well, I guess technically 56 player raid in the Eureka series. And that's my favorite because it's one of my few world first claims. And that's a great memory. And I also think it's a dope mount. I know it's a ball, but it transforms, makes cool sounds. I just wish the actual mount music for it was better. But it's sentimental. So for me, the Proto-Ozma still remains to be my favorite. Hashtag Mondays with Happy Oji-san. Good one. Hi, Mr. Happy. Hope you're doing good. Same. After your What to Expect video, I'm wondering about Ultimates. It seems to alternate between Raid and MSQ trials, judging by what we've got up to Dragon Song. Do you think it's safe to assume we'll get an Omega Ultimate with Kefka Neo XF? So Omega is a bit of a tricky one because Omega has 3 different directions it can go. One is for it to be solely based on the Omega tiers. Now, even that's split into 2. One is that it'll be Kefka, Neo, X-Death, and then Omega, Omega, MNF, God Omega, and then some sort of Super Omega. Because they like to flaunt like a new form or something, you know, Golden Bahamut, you know, Perfect Alexander, and Awakened or Woken Ultima. So they would want to flex something additional here. Kefka and Neo X-Death, though, feel like they'd be absolute inclusions just because of their reputation in Final Fantasy as a franchise, even though they don't really fit a whole lot. Because the other option is Omega himself could be an ultimate. He literally doesn't need another boss. He's got 4 forms as it is right now. He's got 1 in 011 and he's got 3 in 012. So, not to mention, then there's of course the consideration of Midgard Sormer. You know, very, very crucial to Omega's lore, especially as we've learned. Shinryu, of course. You know, Shinryu is classically Omega's opponent. Do they include Shinryu in that? Maybe replace Midgard Sormer? Again, there's all sorts of really weird things to consider, especially because Shinryu as on its own is not a very good ultimate. It's the encapsulation at the end of Stormblood, but it kind of stands on its own and is almost more of a finale to the Dragon Song War than it is anything else. I mean, we could see Shinryu in the Dragon Song War ultimate, essentially Nidhogg's eyes, carry all the way through to that, and their story does not end until Shinryu is defeated. So Shinryu is a big question mark. Whether he appears in Omega, appears in Dragon Song War, is a question that needs answering, because that determines then what our predictions can be for Omega. But even if Omega doesn't actually have us kill Kefka, God Kefka, X-Death, Neo X-Death, I'd expect them to be included mechanically. Like, even if he just summons like visages of them to do their mechanics, even if we don't have to kill them, that's a bare minimum expectation. They're just too important. They're too iconic for them not to include. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello, Haps. Hope you, how you doing? Hope your week is going well. My week is going great. My question is in regards to holding buffs for Summoner. Oh, it sucks so bad. Example, on P2S during Campeos Harma, I would hold Searing Light until the mechanic is resolved and everyone is stacked back together. At the same time Searing Light comes up, so does my Bahamut. My question is situations that does Bahamut, and I guess Phoenix as well, count as a cooldown that should be held, or should I be using the way? Yeah, Campeos Harma is actually a really tricky one. Now, if you're actually going all the way to Enrage, like you are seeing the Enrage cast, you actually should be using buffs before Campeos Harma. If you are killing the boss at a different time, like 9 minutes or 9 minutes 30, then you actually want to do it after Campeos Harma. Now, as for the follow-up question of whether or not you should save Bahamut there as well, that is also tricky, because if you don't save Bahamut there, what ends up happening is you have to use Bahamut without using Searing Light, and then you do not have Phoenix back by the time Searing Light comes around, and then your Searing Light is now in line with all of your Phoenixes, which is actually fine because Phoenix is stronger than Bahamut now. It's not that bad, but I'd have to look at the exact fight timing, because I'm pretty sure that you still have like 25 seconds left before Phoenix comes up by the time you'd Searing Light if you held. So what most summoners are probably doing, if they have to hold till after Campeos Armor, I'd imagine they're also holding Bahamut and just kind of suffering for a little bit. Just because if everyone else is doing it as well, then everyone else is suffering the same problem. So it's tough. It's really annoying. It's one of the downsides to this whole 1 minute, 2 minute thing, is realigning buffs actually is the most awful thing to do. I wonder if it impacts their decision about this kind of change going forward, or if they determine that it's an okay problem to have created versus, you know, people having to kind of work super hard at aligning cooldowns instead. I don't know. We'll see. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hi, Happy. Hope you are doing well. I generally enjoy alliance raids a lot due to the grandeur of the environments and the bosses, but with trash 4 bosses and sometimes a door boss, they can be pretty long. What's your favorite alliance and how do you think they could improve them? I have no issue with the length of alliance raids because kind of for the same reason as you, I just really enjoy having that one full instance that is all the environments, lore sprinkled throughout, lots of little details to catch, some pretty okay bosses, okay to fun bosses. I have no issue with the length, especially given that half of the time I get Labyrinth of the Ancients and it's done in like 11 minutes. So ends up not really mattering to me. And the near raids I like to avoid with like the Plague. I just kind of hope someone in my party's under level 80 because I don't want to do the whole item level cheesing thing because I don't want to do Lotus, so I don't want to item level cheese, but I don't want to do near, so I don't want to be above level 80 or with above level 80 item level stuff. So it's a bit of a tricky situation if you ask me. That being said, my favorite's always going to be, the Evil East raids as a whole, but Orbone. I love Orbone. I like all 4 bosses. I love the music. I like the voice acting. I'm not mildly annoyed in any capacity by any of the trash, by any of the, it's just, I don't even care if we wipe the Thunder God Cid. It's a little funny, but I love it through and through. So, and I don't want to change anything about it. The fact that it has Echo is already nutty, but it's a good time. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Haps. Hope you're doing well. Same to you. Long-time watcher, first-time asker. Welcome. Not that I'm complaining at all. After all this will hopefully disintegrate queues, but isn't adding another 12 worlds to EU a bit overkill? Or do they really expect 14 to be popular enough for them to get a return on this investment? So it's less about getting a return on the investment at this point, and more so ensuring that they never have to think of this again. I think it is overkill, but it's overkill at the moment. Next time we hit a time like this where we're having all these issues, probably won't feel that way. It basically just lets the game's sky be the limit. And if they need to expand again after this, that's a sign of massive success. Like the hope from them does seem to be to just eliminate the issue forever. Even if they don't necessarily use all of that space, it's fine. They can repurpose it. If they determine, now we have too many servers, what ends up happening? They can provide free transfers and allow themselves to condense the servers down into less worlds, but with a higher capacity. They now have backups in case they need them for something in the future. They could turn them into instant servers. They become a resource that no matter what, having it is better than not having it. So, across the board, they probably don't need as many server increases as much as they need capacity increases for the existing ones. But that's not as feasible as doing this. So having the extra hardware is better than not having it. So, I think it'll probably be the right decision, but you are right that it may not remain 12 worlds forever. We'll see. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hi, Mr. Happy. Hope you had a great week. Same for you. What is your take on Dark Knight and Endwalker? God, I feel like I have to answer this every other week. Forums are full of people complaining about the job, saying it's boring, some saying it lacks identity. What do you think about the current Living Shadow 1, 2, 3 spam and lack of interaction between resources? Would you like to see some older actions coming back? No. No Dark Arts. Terrible idea. So 1, 2, 3 spam is fine. You have your the job is so busy OGCD wise during burst. The 1, 2, 3 spam is not an issue whatsoever. The Living Shadow is kind of the same as the Machinist bot. You just want it to be well timed. You want it for the damage. It gives you something. It's something easy that you don't need to think about. It's almost like a dot that you just pop up every few minutes. The lack of interaction between resources, that's a weird one, because you have Dark Side, which is gotten from using your MP, which your MP can also be used to get a free what's it called? Well, you can use it defensively to get a free use of your skill that now no longer costs MP. That's like you get rebated, which also applies to Dark Side. But then you have all of your you have abilities that generate all of these things that you then use in conjunction to deal damage. Like, do people want MP to affect your blood, or do your blood to affect your MP? Because that's opening up a whole fucking can of worms on Dark Knight that a busy job as it is doesn't really need. Fundamentally, Dark Knight has its identity. It has its place. What it needs is cleanup. It doesn't have any sustain compared to the other tanks. Literally almost nothing. And that could... there's no reason... In a world where Bloodwetting exists, there's no reason Dark Knight should have nothing. Bottom line. It could be Oblation healing them when they're hit. It could be TBN healing them when it explodes. It could be Abyssal Drain having a shorter cooldown, or healing for more, or being a part of your combo, even like taking it off the OGCD and making it like part of your AoE combo, or just applying its effect to what your AoE combo already has. Living Dead could have healing on hit just to make it so you can at least assist a little bit with the timing on that. Which, honestly, that comes with some downsides, too, so that's actually a really tough one. What else? Blood Weapon could have charges instead of being 10 seconds, like people were already asking for it to be changed. Like, all of the change are fundamental. They don't fundamentally change what you're doing. They make those things better to do. And I think that's the important thing, and I think that's the way Dark Knight's going to go. Now, could they rework it? Absolutely. They could give it something brand new. It's an incredibly strong job, though, so I have a feeling that's not going to be what they decide to do to round it out. They probably want to round out its actual gameplay as opposed to giving it a whole new coat of paint. And I think that's what they'll do. I think they'll just shore things up and then move on. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Probably. Yes, it's back on Mondays. Stop it. Quick question on raid buffs. Didn't even say hello. That's it. Mocks me and then doesn't say hello. Summoner has a weird one that's only available during the primal part of your rotation. For spell speed summoner, how do you determine what's the better time to use them? During the primal part? You're just referring to Searing Light, which isn't during your primal part. That's just not when you have a summon that isn't Carbuncle, which you normally would do right before Bahamut or Phoenix. You don't have another buff other than Searing Light. You have your shield, which you can also only use when Carbuncle is out, but you always use it before you go into Bahamut. Every time. Doesn't matter, and then it's back up every 2 minutes, so that's it. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. If you don't, another no helloer? Y'all are so bad with your manners. If you don't mind, I have 2 questions. I don't know, you didn't say hello. Do I mind? I'm kidding. First off, I heard a while ago some friends were getting a new limited job. They've never said we're getting a new limited job. What they did was, when they announced Blue Mage, they said that other obscure jobs like Puppet Master and Beast Master were possible under the same system, but they never once confirmed that we were getting another limited job. So that's the mistake being made there. So tell your friends that that's what they remember. Second, do you think they'll ever add trial or raid weapons to Dancer, Gunbreaker, Sage Reaper? They've said there's an interest, and they're looking at adding ultimate weapons at least. Trial weapons? Probably not, but ultimate weapons, yes. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Happy. Hi. Hope all is well. See, that's not so nice. Hello. Hey. Hi. Hey. What advice would you give someone trying to get through the raid tier using Party Finder? This is what I would recommend right here. Okay. Haven't been able to get coffers that they need for BIS pieces. I've not gotten a coffer in P1S. Next week I'll get my 4th book. Spend the book right away or wait. I generally recommend waiting at least until 8 weeks before you spend P1S in particular. It's just, depending on your job, you don't need that many. Most jobs really only need 2, maybe 3 accessories. And if you buy one and then you win it, feels the worst. You know what I mean? So I would not buy it right away. That would be my advice. But I'd also say don't worry that much about BIS. Honestly, when you're progressing Party Finder early, you just want to win anything and everything. Yeah, of course, you want to get your tome pieces and get your upgrade mats and fill out that best in slot list. But if you're not planning on doing ultimate, that best in slot list is really just for the sake of filling a best in slot list and doesn't serve any other real purpose. When you're going through the Party Finder, it's item level, item level, item level. You want to win every possible thing as long as it doesn't screw up your build. So don't spend your books right away and just need everything. That's my advice. All right, after reading through some of these remaining questions, I think it's lightning round time because I'm scrolling through questions like I don't have full-on answers for a lot of this stuff. There was somebody who wanted to give an idea for a potential future job. Listen, they can do whatever they want. They don't have to follow the rules they've established at this point. But those kind of questions don't really have a point for me to answer. I'm not any sort of validation or whatnot. I'm like you. I have ideas all the same of like what they could do with this or that or what. But it's like, for the sake of this, it's really tough because I either have to shut the idea down like it's a bad idea, like I think it's a bad idea, or I'm validating it and I feel like that doesn't hold any sort of discussion value. Just for the sake of this, that's like something I talk about more on like Twitch than I do here because it just makes more sense in that format. Asking what I think they could do for level 80 Blue Mage. Dude, every time I think I could like predict something, they add like random shit that I would have never thought of. So no, I have no fucking idea what they're going to do for level 80 Blue Mage, but it'll probably be even stronger than it is now. Someone asking me what Ethis is up to. He's just insanely busy. Like he's doing a lot of good for himself more important than really anything else. And that's all you really need to know, that he's taking care of himself first and foremost. And that's meant that he hasn't been able to be around a lot. I don't know when and if he'll be returning, but that's, as long as he's happy, healthy, content, that's all that matters. Then this one was here. What would you recommend I do to get into Savage Raids if I really only have Monday nights and Tuesday nights due to my work schedule? Jump in the Party Finder. If you want to be playing and doing it, Pug. Do those Party Finders. Like, I mean, yeah, you can find like a 1 or 2 day a week static. Sly's in a 1 day a week static. They only raid Sundays. And they're on P3S. But, I mean, you have to very specifically find that, and that could be tough. So those are your options. Party Finder, or just really try to find a 1-2 day a week static. Let's see. Then there was, what are your thoughts about harder 4-man dungeon content? I think Mythic Plus is not a good idea for 14. I've thought about it a lot. The only way Mythic Plus works in 14 is if it has its own separate set of gear that only makes you stronger inside of Mythic Plus. Because item level wise, it's never going to be made to match the raids. It'll at best would match the tome gear, and honestly, probably not even that. So then what does it do? It's not going to have like weird random effects that work in Savage Raids and shit. So it needs to be stuff that's wild. It basically needs to be treated like Eureka and Bozja, but the dungeon equivalent. It just needs to be stuff that makes you stronger in that specific type of content. And I don't think they'll flush it out that much. I also don't think 4 players is great for Mythic Plus style content, because it is literally going to be the healer show. But that's just me. I just think they need to take the deep dungeon format and do more with it. Like, add more custom ways to enjoy it and allow you to kind of crank things up and really challenge yourself if you want to. But challenging yourself, because we've seen the deep dungeon community commit to that, even when the content has given them these rules. They want to do these solo attempts. They want to do these like no potion attempts. They're always trying to do something, and sometimes it throws them for a major loop. But you know, I would like to see like being able to force a seed for Palace of the Dead, for example, in order to maybe hold competitions and stuff. Like, oh, you know, we're gonna do 1 to 200 solo competition here. They've both been given the same seed for their save file, and we're off. Like, giving players more community tools for 4-man content, I think, is more important than adding something like Mythic Plus, because I don't think it'll work in this game. And then there's another idea for like another system, which again, it's kind of like the other thing. It's like we all have ideas for that stuff, and I'm not like the validation for it. There's another one here. Like, do I think there's room for another turret mage style job? There's room for whatever job they want to make. They just have to make its access to power, not strictly. Also, I'm not going to lie. Black Mage might be a turret mage, but that job is super mobile. All the casters are crazy mobile right now. So it barely even deserves that title in the first place. But I mean, yeah, there's always room for them to do something similar, but it needs to have a different method of accessing its power. It can't have like a fire ice back and forth. It needs to have some other completely different way of accessing its power. All that matters in Final Fantasy XIV identity-wise is how does a job access its power. It's not always about what its power is, it's about how it accesses it, because that's what gives jobs different feels, even though they largely achieve the same role. If you could pick one gathering crafting, which one would you pick and why? You can't pick just one. I won't even dignify that with an answer. You need all of them. If you want to do anything of value, you need all of them. Except fishing. But just do it anyway. Just do ocean fishing. I never thought I'd say that. Have a bonus of chin scritches for Ivy and Illaha. They don't deserve it. They've been assholes all day. Yes, your thoughts on Dark Knight. Okay, I've already answered a Dark Knight related question before, so I guess I'll just kind of wrap that in. But thank you for the chin scritches for the cats, even though they don't deserve it right now. The Monk and Notman question from last week, I don't even remember. It was probably just, could they make a Notman worthwhile? Man. But this also wasn't a question, I just realized. It was just a comment on last week, so. 1-button macro for Summoner. I've done 1-button macros for all the jobs. I did one for Machinist and like beat the dummy to like some old Savage fight, I remember. And that's when Larry then went ahead and did it for Summoner, and then he made a 2-button macro for Summoner at one. Oh no, he used to have a 2-button macro for Summoner, and he shortened it to a 1-button for the hilarity of what's it called? Of doing it, I suppose. Where does the line get drawn between a job being broken, strong, and fun to play? When it's infinitely better than every other choice, and indisputably better than every other choice. Bard, Reaper, Monk, all kind of in that category right now. So we'll see if it changes. That's all there is to it. I wouldn't put Astro in that category, personally. I mean, Macrocosmos is great for one mechanic, but I wouldn't put it in the broken strong category for like as an overall healer, just for that one mechanic it is. Final Fantasy Origin, you're damn right I'm excited. I didn't play Neo 2. I never got around to it, so I'm really excited because everyone tells me Neo 2 is way better than Neo 1, and I really enjoyed Neo 1. Minus, I'm not a huge fan of the gearing system in Neo games. I feel like it doesn't actually complement the games that much, and I feel like I'm going to feel that way in Strangers of Paradise as well. But either way, I think the game is awesome, and I think Neo was a lot of fun despite that. So, that's about the only thing I knock against them, but otherwise, like, I'm pumped. I'm freaking pumped. Especially for the Final Fantasy 1 setting, the job system they're doing, the overall gameplay. It's very methodical. The bosses are super fast-paced and precise. It's dope. I'm excited. Then let's see. Is it 14 add a stealth change to Endwalker with culling? So A ranks actually render once they're in combat now. So it is completely undocumented. They didn't say anything about it, but yeah, an A rank specifically renders across the whole zone when it's in combat. When it's not in combat, it doesn't. But as soon as somebody hits it, it completely opens up. So yeah, it fixed that issue. Thank goodness for that. What's it called? And then this question is regarding the flags for the key item thing. Last week, that was dope. Weekly. Oh yeah, I think I also talked about that on stream the other day, which was pretty neat. Software new melee job will be on scouting gear tag. Well, not software. It makes the most sense because in going into Endwalker, we were like, there's too many melees. There's no way they add a melee. And Yoshi P's like, I don't think about it like that. He's like, I think about it like we've never got a new maiming job, so why don't I add that? Which means scouting now becomes the role/job that is the oldest that's never received a new job since 2.4. So it's less soft-aware and more they've led us to that conclusion. But I do agree with you that the 3 magic damage dealers... I'm not going to lie, though. Ninja is practically a magical melee. They do a lot of magic damage. So, and then you have Paladin dealing magic damage. Dark Knight kind of deals magic damage. Sort of, but I wouldn't really call that a major part of their identity. But I understand. I mean, here's the thing. We could see what is officially deemed a magical melee at some point. There's no reason to say that it couldn't happen. They could use casting gear and just still be classified as melee. They already have that with Ninja sharing accessories with range physical. So they can do whatever they want and change the rules whenever they want. We learned that back in 2.4, and as much as I will always make my predictions based on how the game is now, I'm not the one making it. So they can always throw us for a loop. I think 14 will ever have an opt-in way to disable experience gain or slow it down. No, they're not going to bother. They don't care if you want to slow it down. That's not how they make their game. So no, they'll never have an opt-in EXP. And I say that again, having just said I don't make the game. But they don't care if you want to slow it down. It's a story game. At the end, the big thing with WoW is it makes very little sense because WoW is not a story game. Like, yeah, it has words that make up a world that would describe lore, but it's not a story game. This one, no matter what, you're kind of hard stopped, and being ahead of it isn't a big deal because it'll always bring you down to the level you need. So no, they're almost likely never going to do that. There's really no gain for doing it. Preferences of developers when it comes to altering jobs. Honestly, it's not a consistent thing. There are some patterns we notice whenever they're making adjustments, like 0.08 is normally a numerical change. They have confirmed that it will be largely numerical changes, whereas something like 0.1 can have complete job reworks. 0.4 also very popular for complete job reworks. So they prioritize balance above job fantasy. Job fantasy, though, they definitely, if it feels compromised, they will. If it's a job is strong or weak, not because of that, but because of just numbers not being right, they'll always look to that as opposed to anything else. Yeah. Prioritize job fantasy versus job gameplay. I mean, I think it just falls in line with what I just said. If the job is, it's not about whether the job is performing well or not, it's about the perception of it. So everyone's, for the most part, it's okay. Dark Knight's kind of the only question mark at this point. And again, I don't think they need a rework. I think they're just clunky. So there's that, I suppose. Summoner 6.1 changes. Oh, you mean like for more major reworks? I don't think that job gets reworked again this expansion. I think they just add potency to stuff. Maybe change some cast times. But nothing too major. Like, anything they do, it's still going to be this, like, 1-2, you know, this, you know, Bahamut, you know, then 3 summons, and Phoenix, then 3 summons, and any change they make is just going to be to the feel or to the overall outputs. It's not going to get reworked again. I want to ask your opinion of Bozja being the de facto fastest way. It's the fastest, but it's far from the de facto. People who want an AFK level go there. But dungeons are super fast. Fates are profitable and fast. And then you have a lot of daily and weekly activities, you know, Wondrous Tales, hunts, things like that. So as fast as it is, it's also a lot of people's not preferred method. So much so people don't really even talk about it that much for leveling anymore. Some people still do it, but it doesn't get de facto talked about a whole lot anymore. Let's see. There was a spoiler question here. Yeah, I'm not going to take that one. Sorry. What's this? Remember back in the day when if you were knocked off the boss platform, you were out of the fight? Any chance that ever comes back? No, because it was toxic. That's it. It was just toxic design. What is your thoughts on DRS? I love DRS. It's a lot of fun. It just doesn't have good replay value. But progging it and beating it, a lot of fun. Highly recommend it. Thinking about a new scouting job is fun. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Side quest, searching for the Carbuncle doll. Yeah, I remember that one. What's it called? Quick correction about LBs. Range LB is actually 10% weaker. So this was true pre-Shadowbringers. In Shadowbringers, they changed them to be the same. And last I've seen, they have not changed it back. So I double check that. And then can you link your headset? Just Steel Series in the description. Check for the Arctis Pro. And I think that's everything. I might have missed a few. There might have been some spoiler ones that I completely forgot to go back to, but I think we got most, if not all, of the questions for this episode of Mondays with Mr. Happy. So thank you for asking your questions. If you have one for next week, put it in the comment section of the video below. And with that, I'll see you next week. Be on the lookout for a couple videos this week. Like I said, going to get back on my grind as I have been. This little bit of a break was nice, but I can't do it for too long because then I feel like I'm just being lazy. So anyway, thank you for watching. I'll see you all next week. Until then.